there in game one. We are into picks and bans, and we've already got a few to catch up on.
All right, so Zed and Braum out from H2K as their first two. And that was the same in the first picks and bans, but they banned the Braum first, so I don't know if there's anything there. And Nidalee and Lucian were the same from Fnatic, so not really changing anything up in the ban so far. So I want to see if the priority changes, because last time, remember, H2K heavily prioritized Jankos and his picks.
No changes yet with the Alistar. If the Twisted Fate gets banned once more, and it does, that is 7 games out of 7 playoff performances that Ryu has not had access to Twisted Fate. He must be tearing up scrims with that champion.
Yeah, it's one of those interesting picks where we've seen Ryu playing it kind of last year, I believe it was. There was that one game where we saw him just go in and blow Fox up when Fox was playing the Victor and trade 1-for-1, but certainly has not been the highest priority pick for the regular split for H2K either.
And no changes here. Kindred lock in relatively quickly on the side of H2K. I mean, technically, they were in the lead. Technically, they had a lot of objectives. It wasn't a great lead, but if their playstyle could change in game with the same picks, maybe they can get more out of it.
And that's the thing, you know, I was kind of joking around about are they going to give the Echo. I still think it works for H2K to take the Kindred because we spoke about how their early game was so good. They need to focus on how they close out the game because that has been the difficulty for them, going to the wrong place on the map.
Well, take a look at this one. It's Echo and Trundle again. So we literally have the same champion select from last game. And you're right. I mean, Fnatic didn't really need to change anything. They won the game. H2K, they were winning the game up until they lost.
Right, this guy, right?
So maybe they just need to execute that late game a little bit better or just be more aggressive in the early game because they have the champions that could do it.
Yeah, and of course, team fight decisions, right? Committing to the engage, trying to lock down Spirit on that Graves, who was super tanky. Right, 30 seconds on the clock. If we go by game one, Thresh, Maokai. Though I don't think the Thresh was as pivotal, I think the Maokai was still okay.
I think at that point then, if you can substitute out, perhaps look for the Sivir. I know Forgiven didn't have the best performance on it. It was a pick that we were talking about how we didn't really want to see H2K play it, but it does make team fighting a whole lot easier. Kalista has the same kind of, factor in the team fighting with her ultimate as well. So they're going to stick with what worked for them and maybe look for a different set of solo lanes.
This is an earlier pick though. Last time they picked up the Maokai and the Thresh, but they will pick up the Thresh as well. So now waiting for the next two picks from Fnatic.
But in this situation, H2K have good options available. They could go Lissandra here out of the middle lane and maybe look for the Maokai again. There wouldn't be too much in any problematic way of doing that. And can you think of much better team fighting out of the top of mid laner when you look at like Maokai, Lissandra, pair it with a Kalista?
Well, yeah, the theory's good, but the double teleports weren't used at all. With the rise in the Maokai, like for 35 minutes it didn't get used. The first time they did, H2K lost the game. So
that's true.
I need to see H2K change their mindset and their decision making in game to make it work.
The other thing is there are fairly few matchups for the Lissandra actually then for Fnatic to pick into it. They could look for one of the other matchups they played. Actually, is this just going to be a repeat? This could just be the Azir again.
Same lineup, the Rise and the Maokai going into the top lane. You raised a really good point, Trevor. Talking about the mentality of the team, Alan's desk was saying that H2K is a team who can tilt real hard, and we saw it in their last series. The later the series went on, they was making bad decisions, so they can't let that happen to them in this arena.
No, they absolutely cannot. And if this bird gets locked in, Fnatic and H2K have just gone...
Remake!
Let's do it again, and let's just see if decisions can be altered. It is very, very rare that two teams will face off with exactly the same compositions back to back.
Yeah, exactly, because now we're in a situation where do we see Fnatic lock themselves once again into a 2 versus 2 and end up getting pushed in a lot on that? You know, if that happens, it's on H2K to go, okay, well, we've won the 2v2. Let's now transition that into a push on the bottom side of the map and try and get some more objectives, because it looks like we are in for an exact copy of the last game's champion select, and it's locked.
It's Groundhog's Day, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see if there's any changes on this day.
It's a funny looking groundhog.
It is a funny looking groundhog, and last game it was very interesting because the deep vision was not particularly deep from either squad, and the lane swap, I think, initiated by Fnatic, reactively swapped by H2K to make it Australia lane, so to speak. And it was H2K that came out ahead early, at least in that lane. But the other two, Febiven and Gamsu, had a very good start.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of people commenting on the Rise, the Azir, the scalings on both sides. I think it was Yamato Cannon in the break was kind of tweeting that, you know, don't be deceived by Ryze's normal scaling in the matchup. In this case, Azir is just going to burst through him. So we have to watch out for the later this game goes. H2K maybe can't put quite as much behind Ryu, but you've always got that potency in a team fight. If you get the freedom, put the damage down from a Ryze, you're still that machine gun caster.
The discussion, though, was also that Ryze still has a really good early game and mid game against Azir. And also from the analyst desk, they were saying that maybe you just need to speed up the game against Fnatic. You can't let them scale up and then take a team fight against you, especially when you're H2K and one of your biggest weaknesses is team fighting. So in this game, I would like to see H2K just go balls to the wall and go ham.
They've got 2 teleports, they've got point and click CC, they've got a Thresh for safety. The tools are there. Let's find out if they can use them. It is the same comps again. The fan vote was in favor of Fnatic earlier today. You know how this works.
Yeah, it's H2K. What? H2K win is the hashtag if you want them to take it. Hashtag FNC win if you think Fnatic, with one of their members on home turf, can lock in a second win.
The pivotal member on home turf as Febiven led Fnatic to a Game 1 win in the series. We're loading up onto the Rift for game number 2.
And Fnatic are going to be opening up and sending all of their members into the bottom side of the map. Feben's going to go mid as normal. So now Jankos is pushing up. He expects to see Spirit, but maybe he's in the bush. Maybe where is he? And now they're closing in on Ryu. There's the pillar, actually.
Oh, let's see if it's going to lock him down. That's the real problem.
He skilled it.
Going to come in and gets the club and a shot. Damage advantage Fnatic. They're in the lead.
All right.
Standard Saturday night then, Trev.
There we go. There we go. DPM is off the charts in the early game. I'd actually have to find out if Cly landed that auto attack, because by about 25 minutes in the last game, he'd only dealt 350 damage to champions.
So
It's not a super pivotal stat, but it is a fact.
Nice fact.
Yeah.
All right, so what is the bait? Recall. I didn't see if that ward came down from Fnatic actually after Forgiven had already run past. So some shenanigans there as Odo's going to take an interesting route back to the jungle, and we may once again even have the same lane setup.
So this is the difference, though, in warding between Game 1 and Game 2 from Fnatic. Now, look at what this deep ward the observers have just shown us on this bottom side. This is fairly typical now of any kind of opening. Last game, Fnatic didn't have that vision. Oh, they just, I believe, spotted Vander on that ward. He just clipped into the vision, so they will have the knowledge that it's going to be at least standard from H2K's point of view. They want the bottom half of the map.
So Fnatic will then send 2 members up to the top side. Now we get the double jungle from H2K. Okay, so everything as normal. So we will get this lane swap up now, and that's instigated from Fnatic. So trying to once again get to that point in the game where they can start team fighting. But it'll be interesting to see how a lane swap scenario goes for these 2 teams.
Well, I've got to feel like it benefits Fnatic in this setup. We spoke about the 2v2 extensively in the last game, and you know how we expect Fnatic to be kind of broken apart by that, and Fnatic in the early game suffered. In this point, now you dodge that matchup, and suddenly H2K's big strength of Forgiven and Vander just really is not anything they can stand behind for the very first parts of this game. Now, of course, we're going to have the age-old tower swaps going through, trade them 1 for 1, and we'll see where the second part of the lane swap ends up playing out.
I think it's fairly unlikely we're going to see a lot of tempo open up from these 2 teams in this first tower going down. H2K are taking it slightly faster, and maybe they'll be a couple seconds ahead, but I don't think it will ripple effect into anything too massive.
And the real question is, what comes next? Who's going to play out these next few stages? Who looks at, how they make use of that Herald? And of course, difference in approach to the game. Last time we had the Australia lanes, and H2K dictated the tempo. They got a lot of the objectives very early on at the cost of farm, where Febiven and Gamsu was able to pick it up. This time around, now Fnatic are going to have to try and match the macro strength that H2K have really had an advantage on all year long.
And also in that last game, because there was a situation where they were trading towers and Fnatic only took the top tower, and H2K, they took an inner turret, and H2K were gradually getting ahead from that. So if H2K can make something bigger happen from that, then that's maybe how they'll get into this game. Vander looking for a gank in the mid lane. It's going to go down to the hook, though.
Hey, gets the auto, lands the death sentence.
Whoa.
Very early cleanse from Febby. It's not the greatest cooldown, but a good aggressive play from Vander in a lane swap.
Yeah, and look what, oh, hang on, Forgiven has pushed up. I was about to say, look at how far Forgiven has managed to get himself up in the lane, but in fact, he pinged out on Spirit as he was in vision. So one thing that H2K do pretty effectively is be one of the first teams to recall out from that, get Forgiven up into the top lane to receive some of that farm. And that's one of the things that really went wrong last week for H2K, was they were putting Odoamne in that kind of situation and really punishing him because he was extending a little too far, got caught out, and H2K now dodge that kind of aggressive play. Spirit was looking for that gank.
And the knock-on effect is that Vander can then go to other lanes and try and make plays happen because you don't need a support holding the hand of the ADC to start farming in that lane. And I'm a little surprised that Febvin positioned near the wall because it gives you two options when you go from literally just going down to a skill shot coming from the enemy. You always want to have open ground so you have free choices and you have to guess where they're going to dodge.
Of course, that option was not given, so therefore Vander lands the first hook. Opposite into the Ignite once again. Double TP still available for H2K, and they've been on this top outer turret for a good 3-5 seconds longer than their opposite number. Catch a quick glimpse of Jankos securing a mark. And once again, H2K will still be ahead in the tempo, ahead in the lane swap game, as they will secure this and they can peel back to the Heralds.
It's about a quarter of the turret's health difference right now when you look at it. Also, Fnatic, they've got a bit of a deceptive push when you look at Ezreal's attack speed stacking up. He's also got the Essence Flux, can help out other people taking down that turret, but it still does go down in favor of H2K because of how early they put Forgiven up there. Now H2K, obviously, it's their prerogative to take the Rift Herald right now, and Gamsu is just taking his time here, letting those minions die to the tower.
Doing the best that he can, but Gamsu's already down 12 CS and a level to Odoamne. The tower should die very, very shortly. One last auto will just about do it. And it looks like that wave will be slowly pushing back towards Gamsu for the time being. But look at all support in the bottom lane. So H2K, again, still playing ahead, still already pushing Fnatic to be reactive.
Yeah, and at that point you saw Gamsu have to concede a little bit of distance there. No ward was down to spot whether it was just Forgiven or Forgiven and the rest of H2K. There was a moment perhaps where it could have been a couple more members. And, you know, for Gamsu, he's like, I don't want to do a Chachi here. I don't want to die.
Yeah.
Just needlessly trying to
become
farm.
a thing now.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, kind of immortalized there. But Klein Reckless hiding in this lower bush here. Maria's going to go down to ward, I think. So I don't think they'll be able to catch him. And Spirit's also waiting in the sidelines as well.
Oh, this is going to turn into a surprise party by the looks of it.
He's going to chase after it. Spirit has the ultimate. He's going to knock him into the rest of the team. Ryu's just going to go down. First blood over to Reckless. Jankos is a little too late to show up. No lamp just by from Jankos, but he won't need it.
Surprise! It's all of Fnatic in the middle lane at 6 minutes 50 into the game, and down goes Ryu at this point. Had just used his teleporter as well. Now he's got no flash.
The same picks, the same bans, a different lane setup, and still first blood on the same man. Ryu gets shut down early. He's already behind in CS, and Fnatic put the pressure on. This was just a really good layer of CC, really making Ryu suffer.
Yeah, suffer. Jankos didn't have his level 6 at this point, so pretty easy setup from Fnatic. They even brought Spirit back up in the topside jungle to just farm out because they didn't need him in that situation. So difficult for Ryu to do too much there. Pushed up a little too far, gets picked off by the Azir ult.
Spirit getting caught out by Vander. The Flay and the hook will land, dash away from Spirit, so he'll survive for now and didn't even have to use flash. So actually not too bad for Spirit.
Yeah, collateral damage helping out, put some distance away. And I didn't actually catch a glimpse who got that blue buff. Spirit did not, so I think it was stolen away.
We're trying to find the blue buff.
Having a nosy. I don't actually know who got. Maybe it was Febvin that just
Febby
picked it up.
does have one.
Yeah,
so.
Febby picked it up. Yep, Febby
Right.
picked it up. I just went to double check.
We see inside the
That
crime
was
scene.
why the death sentence hit Spirit, because there was no blue buff to target either. Regardless,
All right,
that's going to keep Febby pushing up on this middle lane. And Fnatic, they are the ones that come out of the lane swap ahead. They have the gold lead and the kill lead, and the pressure lead at this moment in time.
So it's kind of weird, right? Because at the start, I was like, no, there's not going to be a big advantage picked up from this lane swap. They were generally taking the towers at the same time. Ryu is just going to aggress onto Febvin. Should be a kill, as the sliding glider will get him back to the tower. And then H2K start getting these small advances, like coming into the mid lane and taking the tower a little bit faster, being able to rotate, getting some vision. And then Fnatic, once again, just being smarter when it comes to fights, are picking up the advantage.
The thing is, for H2K, they kind of haven't got quite the same game plan as they would have had in game one right now, because they were looking to 2v2 Fnatic as much as they possibly can. Now they're in a lane swap, they kind of have to default to the usual, and for H2K, that was running ahead of the the play. They were the ones dictating the pace, but now they've been slowed down because Ryu, with that kill on that middle lane, it makes it real difficult for Ryu to actually sit there. It's so easy for Fnatic to just drop off the map maybe and look to attack that middle lane and see if they can catch Ryu again, that H2K always have to people around.
Fnatic are putting a lot of pressure on that mid lane. We're coming up to 10 minutes, and comparing games 1 and 2, Febiven was up 17 CS at 10 minutes over his opposite number. He's around that exact number already, and also has an assist, much like game 1. But Fnatic and H2K, they were even. There was 100 gold that separated the two teams up until 15 minutes, and then from there on, H2K pulled ahead by about 1,000 gold at 20. That was when H2K came alive. They took more towers than Fnatic, and I want to see if they can do it again.
They've played this game already, though, so the question is, what do H2K do differently? Because so far, yes, we've been in the lane swap, but they're playing the early game fairly similar. Passive, not really pressuring Fnatic, and then we'll get into mid-game, and will the same thing happen? Will H2K get drawn into the same bad fight?
If they don't use their teleports earlier and more effectively, I think the answer is yes. I think H2K have to make gameplay choices around those double TPs to allow this composition to work. Jankos walked over a couple of wards that Fnatic have placed, getting a lot of value out of that vision, just making sure they're in the right place at the right time.
I think one of the real difficulties, though, for H2K when you look at it, was Ryu wants this. Just a little tap. He just was like, I have damage, beware. For H2K, they're running the likes of like a Maokai, a Kalista, a Thresh. These are picks that you can't really win the game without, cracking a few eggs and team fighting slightly. So they're looking for picks and some kind of skirmishes, but the problem is Fnatic were grouping very effectively when those fights kicked off. So, it's on H2K to pick and choose the right fights, which I'm getting a little bit nervous when I say that, because that certainly has been the difficulty for H2K. Fool me once, not going to get him again in that situation.
Well, kind of putting the case in point on screen, because we saw Clyde just basically disengage a potential engage from H2K, so they're never really able to find their own fight. It's always reactive to Fnatic, and that actually led up to the losing fight last game.
Let's take a look how this pressure goes down. Fnatic are able to wave there. H2K don't really commit to any sort of damage with very short-range champions, and the fact that Forgiven was shoving out down bottom. He's got himself plus 12 CS over his opposite number. Had to pause to actually count. Now H2K are moving, once again placing vision, once again enabling aggressive farming for Forgiven.
Yeah, but look at the aggressive positioning from Gamsu in this situation. He can push up fairly effectively. The only thing that really will undo him is if somehow Ryu gets the right position to TP into this lane, which is tough against an Echo. He's got the mobility in a long lane to keep himself alive fairly easily. So it would be on H2K actually orchestrating that and baiting Gamsu down the lane, which is very tough against an Echo.
Gamsu and Spirit will also take away this Herald, which is actually fairly nice when you're against the Devourer jungle, because that gives 2 stacks over them. So denying that is just an okay play. This will probably go to, okay, it's going to go to Gamsu. But this is eerily similar to the last game, because top lane Odoamne slightly ahead in farm. Mid lane Febiven is in this not great matchup for him, and he's ahead in farm, and then Forgiven has a farm advantage himself.
I think crucially though, Rekkles is not as far behind. The Cull is about 14 CS away from wrapping up. He's close to even, despite the fact that he's actually sitting in a wave, and Forgiven will be able to catch one coming towards him shortly. But Fnatic, in theory, will have slightly more power going into those first fights, where they needed 30, 35 minutes of scaling. Now they may need just slightly less because of the farm that they've been given.
That's fair. And for Fnatic, when you look at it, this early game, even if they have a slight disparity, as we said in the last game, they showed us that it didn't really count too much against them. So despite Febiven's matchup, despite Rekkles needing time, they'll be fairly happy that they're in a situation here where, as you said, they're better off than in the last game. So for Rekkles, we saw his team fight decision-making and mechanics were what turned that game around for him. It wasn't the fact that he gained a whole lot of extra farm by freezing. It was just purely outplaying in team fights.
Well, that's a scary thought then, because now he's not going to be behind, and he still has those abilities.
Yeah.
So H2K continue to apply some pressure where their duo, Forgiven and Vander, going to have some support coming up the mini-map. As Dragon is live, that will be one indicator of potential conflict. We didn't really see massive fights around it in the previous game. It wasn't like Huge's priority, but the teams were jostling for control without necessarily committing to giant fights.
It's all about vision right now, though. Jankos places one over the wall there. Dragon is live, and I mean, when you're playing up against H2K or you are H2K, 5 Dragons is always something that can happen in the game, even if you give one over to the other team. So priority has to be risen a little bit when you're playing into them.
Yeah, and that is somewhat the case. Fnatic were able to bounce back in the previous game. Dragon picked up by H2K as Gamsu and Odo. They'll continue their trading. Slightly different itemization here for Gamsu as well. Got the chain vest and the Balmy Cinder. Previous game, he had the Visage and the Sheen and wasn't able to bully Odo around.
In this game, he hasn't really had too much time up against the Maokai 1 versus 1 until this point, so he's able to go the standard route of the Iceborne Gauntlet will be coming up next after the Sunfire Cape. But when you look at exactly how this game is panning out, Febby and Spirit managed to orchestrate that. Looked a little bit like a steal, but it was a pretty safe take. So one of the things that Vander actually talked positively about Klai when he was on the LSS was Klai's ability to ward and his actual just emphasis on vision control. And you can see that Fnatic, they've got a couple of wards out right now, but I'm not quite seeing it yet from Klai. They haven't had too much presence to get out onto the map. They've got a couple now deeper into the jungle that have been set up in the last minute or so. But Klai, coming into last week, was actually the second highest ward per minute for supports, whereas, a couple of his other counterparts ward a little bit less. But Klai, the story is he's kind of been caught out a little too much at times, and over-warding, over-aggressive warding can be a cause of that.
Maybe also clearing walls and getting caught by Vander. There's a ward over the wall. Klai knows there's someone there. Don't go for it.
The tension was building.
It really was.
I was like, come on,
the setup is just too good.
Swing and a miss. Cast a curse, talking about warding, and then all of a sudden Vander's there. Although Vander's got a juicier target. He's looking for Rekkles, connects with the death sentence. Teleport comes down early from H2K. They're going to carry on chasing. Rekkles gets knocked up into the air. The support is there. It's Vander that secures the kill with the help of a box. And H2K get one on the board. It's a flash play forward.
Flash play, and they won't be able to get any more onto Spirit. He also flashes away, and Feven over the wall, commanding those soldiers to put some damage onto Ryu. That would just be one kill over to H2K.
It looked a little risky as Rekkles managed to create a lot of distance, but one of the problems that H2K have to deal with now is Gamsu pushing in the top lane. So this was the catch onto Rekkles. So immediate flash as soon as it's available from Rekkles into the Arcane Shift. And from here, look, teleport only just completes from Odo to get himself into the fight. So H2K didn't feel confident enough to just continue this fight at first, but he got Ryu around the side, looked for it, and got a couple more flashes out from Fnatic. So H2K are looking for these small skirmishes, and that one was successful for them, but they did then have to kind of get dragged back around the map to deal with Gamsu.
It's also just small things, but that play shouldn't always be so easy for Vander, because usually you walk back and forth when you're hitting a target, you keep stutter stepping and make it harder for someone who is in that position to land a skill shot against you. But Vander played it perfectly. He waited until Rekkles was going to be an auto attack animation, and even if he did decide to back off, he would hook him regardless. So it's small mechanical things like that which just separate the pros from everyone else.
Yeah, very well played by H2K, and they're going to need more of those moments, more of those opportunities which really were not available or not taken from the previous game. He's going to run forward. Desperate power to clear out the wave. Looks way more menacing than it actually was.
Not really desperate, is it? It's
no.
like overkill.
Yeah, exactly. I want this. Right, Rift Herald will be challenged for because we are in Europe, and that's what these teams do. Rift Herald is secured by H2K, and they're chasing down Jankos. The Lambda Spy will buy some time, but here comes Feven.
Well, Feven is incredibly low. He's going to be chased after. That's a one-for-one trade. Ryu is also caught out, and the jump into it from Spirit. Point-blank range. He'll take him out with a shotgun over the wall. The Vander will be Odo One, they savior. 2-for-1 to Fnatic.
And at that point, Fnatic managed to, despite losing the Rift Herald, managed to take the fight again once they group around Spirit's damage. And Feven tried to shuffle his way into the Lamb's Rest, but Odo Amne, hooked by Gamsu.
Oh, Gamsu dragged into the tower. He still has Chrono Break, and he'll have to use it there to get back to his team.
Whew. Everything getting a little tense over the last minute or so here. Fnatic with a couple of picks.
And they managed to put some pressure onto H2K. They are the ones in control, and another team fight around the Herald. Fnatic may be reading H2K's priority on that objective.
So Spirit didn't smite during that, couldn't get himself the steal. Feven, so much damage came out here. He was just trying to edge around that Kindred ultimate. Ultimately fell, but look at the damage Spirit has right now. This is what we have become accustomed to seeing. That damage-focused jungler can really, help bolster the team fighting presence of a team like that. And Spirit just comes out, end of the line, really chunks through H2K.
Yeah, I think the real tragedy was no one picked up Doom Team.
Yeah, yeah.
The spike came out from Jankos and they couldn't get to it. Mid lane Fevin. Oh, the damage. I really underestimate the last overload coming out. It's just like chunks them for like 20% of their health. And Fevin will walk back. He's good to go for now.
Yeah, manages to survive the trade, and that's something Febiven did multiple times in the previous game, and was able to just farm his way up to an itemization point where it didn't matter. Jankos will almost catch Cly out, and H2K are going to continue ward up and look at Forgiven. Forgiven always has support from the rest of his team placing vision.
Much better early game out of Fnatic, though, when you look at it. I mean, despite H2K getting the gold from Rift Herald here, that extra 250 that added to them, Fnatic still coming into this 20-minute mark ahead. Big departure from the last game. About 1,000 gold up for Fnatic. But look at what H2K is going to do in response to that. Push that bottom lane out. And that's one of the things we really didn't see H2K focusing on, was pushing down into the weaker points. This time, yes, Reckless was there. It was going to be a 2 versus 2, but they brought the third person over in time for Dragon, push the tower, pull back for the Dragon. Then they may even look to cut across the mid. Depends on whether Fnatic choose to fight here or whether Fnatic put any resistance up.
The timing is always so perfect from H2K, but Fnatic's just going to say,
stolen!
I'll just steal it from you. Spirit will take that one away. True shot Bros lands with Vander and Ryu, and Jankos survives with the Lambs for Spite. Meanwhile, top lane, tank battle.
And Gamsu's still trying to push here.
Let's find out who wins it as they two back away.
Whoa, Fnatic.
Super tanks. Fnatic say, hey, H2K, you think you're good at Barons? That is what Fnatic is famous for. They have moved towards the pits. Instead, going to be playing the bait game. Nobody from H2K has responded just yet.
But they got a TP from Ryu in that situation. So again, here they go!
And they find Forgiven, the slide, the glide, the kill over to Feathervin. Picks up the kill onto Forgiven.
Slam dunk for Fnatic, their 4th kill of the game. They throw 4 members into this middle inner turret, and Vander's death sentence does not find a target. Fnatic extend their lead, and they take the tower lead as well.
And just as we were saying, H2K were doing the basics pretty well. You push out bottom lane, you come across to Dragon, take the objective and back away, reassess the situation. H2K get drawn into a situation where the communication maybe isn't quite on point. The Dragon gets stolen away, and then Fnatic managed to bait them back into the Baron pit and force a teleport out.
The big question is this what Tilt is made of? That could be such a pivotal moment. Sentence on top, Baby! He's in trouble, but luckily there's some support. Odo is now on the front line. Reckless did not back away, and nobody's died yet. There may be a re-engage from H2K, but they simply can't get there.
They're going to go for the Baron instead at this point. Look at how they're baiting them in.
Fnatic are scattered, and H2K, they want to start this, but it's risky. The longer they hesitate, the more chance there is for Fnatic to contest this. It's a couple seconds late.
Let's find out what H2K can do. There's 3 members of Fnatic still nearby. Baron down to 4,000. The rest of Fnatic, they're deciding to move in. Parallel convergence could start 3. Yes!
2,000 health left. Jankos goes down.
He's stolen! They
can't get it. Spirit with the steal, and that's 2 kills. Fnatic, this could be a second game in the bank.
6,000 gold in the lead. Baron buff on their team, and they're barreling down the middle lane.
Spirit is dancing in his chair here at the Ahoy in Rotterdam, and they are pushing to perhaps take an inhibitor.
No way is this happening. Fnatic pick up the Baron, they go into the tower, they take the inhib, 20 seconds left on Forgiven. They'll probably back away after this.
They're gonna play this one safe. The inhibitor drops, and Fnatic in a flash. As Reckless gets away with his life, they take a commanding lead in Game 2 in this series.
H2K are rolling the dice on objectives time and time again, and this time it is really going to punish them, because Fnatic, they came out of this game on the even point at 20. Fnatic are looking to maybe engage again. Jankos gets
H2K, don't contest this. This is an inner turret. This could cost you the game if you go for this fight. They have the potential flank from Odoame. It was like, no, pull out.
4,000 gold in the first minute of the Baron power play. Fnatic are gonna go spend all of the gold in the bank and just extend that lead even further. Now H2K have to play from a massive deficit. Here was the play that turned it all around.
And it's Gamsu. Watch your minimap. The teleport that comes in into the parallel convergence. H2K are grouped on the corner. They do not have enough room to move. and the lockdown is enough to take Jankos out of this fight without his ultimate ever going off. It's an easy smite down despite the Kalista being there. Forgiven couldn't really move as Fnatic had him surrounded, and that resulted in the push. Man, Fnatic have blown this game apart.
Every single time these two teams are drawn into an interaction that involves more than like 5 people, Fnatic always pull ahead. And H2K, they simply do not win these fights.
And H2K do not defend their tower either. Opting to wait in the base. Super minions just about on the steps of H2K. The rest of Fnatic, they're setting themselves up. Jankos is almost soloed by Spirits alive. The Lamb's Respite goes down, and here's the fight.
Well, I thought Spirit was caught, but maybe the entirety of H2K are caught. Forgiven's dropping out. The true shot barrage from Reckless. That's the double kill, and they will be cleaning up house. That's everyone going down from H2K. Ryu's the only one alive.
Oh, not for much longer if Fnatic can stop him. Ryu makes it to the step, gets the fountain for help. Fnatic dive him, kill him, and Chrono break their way out. They turn their attention to the Nexus turret, and in 25 minutes, destroy H2K in the second game of the series. If you blinked, you could have missed the ending to that game.
Well, certainly H2K were caught a little sleeping, trying to blink maybe, fell asleep at the wheel and let Fnatic take control because, man, it was even. Fnatic maybe with a slight lead coming out of it. Only 1,000 gold separated the teams. And Fnatic, it all started with the Dragonsteel. H2K pulled back away and then ended up in a situation where they get drawn into a bait, one of them dies. Forgiven is pushed too far up, they lose the middle tower. H2K think they've caught Forgiven on the top side of the map, go aggressive, and get punished. They turn to the Baron and lose.
Another game where we have the same picks, and it ends almost in the same way, where they go for a fight and just straight up lose. Now, they need to make a change in this series. They're one game away from losing this entire series, guys.
And look at the guys on screen. Fnatic are ecstatic. What a commanding, convincing victory. As you see Febiven meeting all the local fans. What a great performance, really, from all of Fnatic.
Oh, yeah.
They responded well. They played the lane swap. They got first blood again. Same picks, same bad regame, they say, and they come out on top.
Yeah, but it's not quite over yet. This is a best-of-5 series, and H2K, surely they've got something left in the tank here, because although that was a quick game, that was a game that Fnatic were basically pulling the strings of the entire time until, it exploded open at some point and everybody lost the plot. I forgot the name of the arena we're in a little bit. I stumbled over my words. I saw Spirit dancing. Crazy things are happening with Fnatic in playoffs.
Yeah, it really is. And yeah, but Spirit dancing as well is so awesome to see. Like, the team is just in such high spirits. After the first game, there was like a smirk from one player, but now they were just straight up ecstatic that they won the game. And they are so close from claiming the third place match now.
And it's so important. Championship points looking towards summer. Fnatic were a team that openly said at the beginning of the split, we are here to look for Worlds. We are here to prepare for summer. We want to build towards it. They made a mid-split substitution, replacing Noxjack with Cly, and they was like, hey, IEM's 3 weeks away, we want practice. So there's always a bigger picture in mind when you talk about Fnatic.
Yeah.
And the big picture now is close out clean in one of the next 3 games.
50 points is a big deal. Sorry to step over you, Stress, but like an extra 20 points here is really big in terms of the road to Worlds. And you're right, even though Fnatic haven't made it to the finals, which is something they've historically done for many, many splits, they can still make the Worlds run.
I mean, you've got to now look, though, at H2K in this situation. Yep. This has been almost a catastrophe for H2K in this playoffs. We were saying, G2, H2K, absolutely, through the regular split, they were looking on top of everything in Europe, and H2K do not look like the same team as we've come into playoffs. Their team fighting and team fight choices is atrocious.
Yeah. But the pressure's really been on them because they were saying themselves, like Odoamne was saying that we have to do better than we had previously. Always had the curse of being third place and not the fourth place curse of curse. But, it's not worked out well for them, but maybe they will be locked as that fourth place now.
It looks to be the case. H2 what? H2 many problems that makes this not okay. Because this is a team that is consistently, falling apart, and it is looking worse than it has in a long time. I will expand on that thought when we get back. The series is at match point. Fnatic could be locking in third place and those 50 championships points. Stay right there. We'll be right back. It brings me to tears, hearing the support from the family, from parents.
I was looking at Fabian's parents. I mean, I was just looking at the reaction because the video was over. They seemed happy about it, at least.
Gonna chase after it. Spirit has the ultimate. He's gonna knock him into the rest of the team. Ryu's just gonna go down.
Some time, but here comes Febiven.
But Febiven is incredibly low. He's gonna be chased after. That's a 1-for-1 trade. Ryu is also caught out.
Virgins could stop three. Yes!
2